So Samuel, let's talk about when you entered corporate America. Was it like what you saw on the soap operas that your mom watched?
So actually, yes and no. Um, it was definitely, I was definitely dazzled by it. I was impressed. Um, and I remember coming into corporate America, not only was I impressed, but I also felt intimidated. Um, but I quickly got over that intimidation, and it was the bathroom that got me over that, the men's bathroom. When white men would walk in there and they'd be taking a poop, you know, and some of them didn't even wash their hands, you know what I mean? And that immediately, I saw them as humans at that point. Like, and from that point on, I never elevated another person in my mind like that, just based on skin color or whatever. I mean, I would elevate you based on education and intelligence and stuff like that. But that real quickly, probably within a month, like that intimidation was gone. I was like, young, and that it was just gone. I just saw them. You're human. If you bleed, if I cut you, you're gonna bleed. You get divorced like everybody else. You put your pants on the same way. And so early on, I had a very, I just didn't exalt people like that, which kind of shaped the way I dealt with racism in the future. Because at this time, I didn't fully understand racism. You know, I wasn't really paying attention to all of those social, injustice subjects and stuff like that. But being in that men's bathroom changed my perspective on humanity as a whole. And I think it kind of did something to my heart and my mind when it came to challenges that I would face and the challenges that I would see people in my community face.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before in terms of, they take a dump like everyone else takes a dump, and they don't even wash their hands, right? Or like just people aren't even washing their hands. So, why me as his high school dropout? Why am I feeling inferior, to,
Right.
what they had, in terms of position, titles, that type of thing, and not necessarily the character or the intelligence that they actually had, that they've built up over time.
Right.
And you mentioned the key thing that a lot of people mention as they're in corporate America, is this concept of racism, right? In terms of struggling with fighting it, that type of thing. So, what type of racism did you see when you were in corporate America, or did you face as this high school dropout?
Um, I think I was kind of blind to it because I didn't become educated in racism until I started having children. That's when I started paying attention to the subject. But prior to that, it was just, I pretty much got what I wanted. I don't know if that's like a weird, it's like, okay, I want this job. What do I got to do to go get it? And I got it. And so I'm already starting. So like when people say, oh, you can be educated and you can still have problems because you're Black. Well, from my perspective, I was starting off uneducated. So for me, it was like, I got here without a degree,
Mm-hmm.
I got here without a diploma. I got here without papers. And so for me, it was like, I looked at it as a plus to even get in the door. And I was like, I didn't know affirmative action, all I know was what needs to be done. And I was the type of person where I'm going to show you that I can do it. That's how I would do my interviews. Like I would go there, I'd be like, is there a problem that I got to solve that you need to get solved today? Like, I know you saw my resume, you saw other people. Is there a problem that you need to get solved right now? I'll do it for free. And I had to do that. At least I thought I had to do that because I was starting from a disadvantage. Other people was coming from, they already had a diploma, they already had a degree. So I felt like, what can I do to at least compete? So from that perspective, I didn't really notice too much, because I was happy to get in, because I was like, man, I didn't even think I would get in. So my whole perspective was, of getting in. But then even when I got in, there's little things, that I saw. I never was the type of person to wanted to climb the ladder because I wanted to own the ladder. So I never had that. I never was trying to be the manager. I never was trying to be the boss. I always knew I wanted to have my own. So I never chased those things, And even today, when I hear people chasing those things, I'm like, own the ladder, dude. Like, why are you chasing somebody else's ladder? Like, I wouldn't let you come into my company and climb my ladder. It's my ladder. So why would I come into your company and want to be in charge? Like that was just my thinking, So for me, it was like, how do I learn from this person and do my own thing?
Gotcha.
And as a result, I don't think I didn't have a lot of pushback because I was never chasing his seat. I was never chasing their position. It was like, what do you need me to do? I'm gonna do it. And how do I now get out of here so I can do my own thing?
Got you. So, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I see a lot of, like, in a way, parallels with my story, but just on a very different track until how I got to that mindset from my perspective too, where you kind of had a struggle and work for a lot of different things because of just your early life, and you develop a completely marketable skill that you took to the workplace. And me, as I reflect back, and a lot of people won't mention this, I mean, a lot of people like that in my position won't really mention that I live kind of a privileged existence. Not necessarily because of my parents are rich. They definitely weren't. We're a solid middle class type of or family, but through different programs that were set up, through in the 70s, and when they were doing affirmative action, that type of thing. Right. I lived a privileged educational experience to where once I got into the pipeline in high school, basically, it lasted until I graduated from my MBA program, where there was a complete pipeline to get me into like these positions, get me into these doors, give me these opportunities that really, truth be told, I probably didn't deserve, but I found that first opportunity. And then from that opportunity, I was able just to get into this pipeline where I got to meet the sons of, U.S. senators, the sons of corporate executives, the sons of, world leaders and entrepreneurs, through and daughters, of course, through, this program called MS Squared, Math and Science for Minority Students at, the best high school in the country, Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, right? That led from one thing to another, to where I never even actually had to ask the question until I started my own business. What can I do for you to a large degree? Like what you did in terms of the problems to be able to solve. But seeing their existence in terms of how they were rolling in their limos and, this, pristine, beautiful campus that I get to go to every summer, it opened my eyes to the power of entrepreneurship and the power of ownership, because all of them own something, right? These are the kids of the owners and not the kids of, the actual workers for the majority of the time. So, I think about your story in terms of you came from a marketable skills perspective, and I came from a pipeline perspective. And I know with the Black Business School, I've always had this dream of combining both of those things to, create programs where, okay, we give our kids opportunity, but we also need to make sure that they have marketable skills, to be able to make an impact at age 15, 16, and 17. So I just found that really interesting, when you shared that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like, as you was talking, there's a phrase from the Bible that says, you will reap where you have not sown. And I actually think that's a good thing, because that means the people that came before you created a foundation. And to me, that's normal. Like, I hope my children reap where they have not sown, that they will reap off of my efforts, that they will be able to get something that they didn't earn because I earned it, or my father earned it. And I think that's normal, as long as they don't destroy what was given to them, as long as they, yeah, exactly. So for me, it's like, how do I position myself to benefit my great grandkids? Like, how do I make a boss move or a power move that will give them leverage? Because just the other day, when I drove my sister, about 3 months ago, actually, not the other day, but 3 months ago, I drove my sister to Miami so she can catch the plane back to Jamaica Islands. And and after she left, I stayed in Miami. Actually, I stayed in Fort Lauderdale for a couple of more days. And the place where I was staying at had a bunch of yachts. And so I was just walking by, and I shot a quick video for my Facebook group. It was like, I started thinking about the children and the grandchildren of the people who own those yachts. And And it just confirmed is like, that's what I'm working towards, you know, because those children and those grandkids, I don't think they have to do as much as what their grandparents have done. And now they have this advantage. And to me, it's, you know, when we talk about systematic racism and stuff like that, you know, African Americans are reaping the benefits, or the consequences, I should say, of what the system has done, you know. But then on the same token, I'm like, man, what if we can take that same concept and, well, what if I lay down foundation that if I have a negative consequences because of what somebody did, man, what if I sow positive stuff now? Then that means the generation coming after me is going to have an advantage. So I'm all about giving our future, our children, a unfair advantage.